Welcome to News Desk on SiliconANGLE TV for Wednesday, November 7th, 2012. I'm Kristen Folletti. Barack Obama has won re-election. What does this mean for the future of innovation and the technology industry? Joining us with his breaking analysis of the 2012 presidential election is SiliconANGLE founder John Furrier. Welcome, John.
Morning.
John, were you keeping close tabs on the election as it unfolded last night?
You know, I've been following the election very closely. Going back to 2004, prior to my last startup, social media at the beginning of that 2004 election was really the beginning of when blogging was hitting its stride. So since 2004, I've been a very active and curious pundit, and also analyst around how the elections have been going down, around the social angle around all this. So, as you know, SiliconANGLE is about computer science meets social science. So obviously the impact of the internet and the connected systems like i.e. mobile phones makes this a very interesting discussion around the social angle, meaning the role of society. And more particular, as highlighted in this election, was the actual demographics of the electorate and the people voting.
So I'm curious to know what you think about Obama's win.
I mean, I think it was, so on the political level, I watched all the talk shows and been following the election results. To be the analyst on the actual election, bottom line is the Republicans are really out to lunch. I mean, I've originally started when I was a first voter. I was a Reagan Republican, so I remember those eras, and I think there's a lot of supply side like economics that could be applied to this economy. But Romney, I like his fiscal policy, and I wanted that to happen. At the same time, Obama's social agenda actually blows away Romney. So what I wanted was a candidate that was Mitt Romney, conservative, fiscal, and Obama, liberal on the social side. And we talked about that on another thing. But clearly, this election was about two things. The Republicans are absolutely out to lunch around what the pulse is around this country. This is, again, essentially 3 consecutive elections where the polarization of red-blue is standing out, but also around the social aspect. And this is really the first election, in my opinion, where smartphones and social media and big data have played a massive role in highlighting the demographic shift of the actual voters. So this is not about Obama being a black president at all. This is more about that, hey, you know what? People actually have certain orientations. They want to vote a certain way. And as I said, the party of choice is liberal, socially, and fiscal conservative. That seems to be the party, and the Republicans are absolutely out to lunch by not recognizing the diversity of the audience, as we know and may measure on SiliconANGLE.
I want to get your angle on why you think he was able to clinch the win.
I mean, I think Obama did a couple things. So I had a chance to view Obama up close in 2011. He started his ground game in the summer of 2011. And at Stanford University, I had a chance to go over there and meet with the chief data scientist for Obama's campaign, Rajiv or something or other. I forget his last name, but he was hired from Accenture Labs to essentially be the big data guy for Obama. Obama absolutely had a slew of volunteers and experts in big data, and he used data and targeting to really get the word out. So he had 2 aspects of his ground game that won the election for him. One was an actual physical ground game. He went to the battleground states, and this was talked about by the pundits yesterday on TV. He got there early and kicked Romney's ass in the key areas that he needed to win, obviously Colorado, Ohio, and some of those other states. But behind the scenes, what no one's talking about is that Obama absolutely nailed the virtual cyberspace ground game. He was out early in 2011, establishing the big data angle, meaning using data to targeting email messages, social media. All those aspects were absolutely well executed and really showing the Republicans really how it should be done.
How would you describe the voter turnout in terms of demographics?
I think the demographics are clear. I mean, the country here is about hope and growth. So that's why I like the fiscal policies of, say, a Romney or a Reaganomics kind of philosophy. But also, Obama speaks to the heart of the upward mobility wannabe entrepreneurs, and also a whole nother immigration, I call immigration status. Folks who come to this country either legally or illegally want to essentially be entrepreneurs and contribute to society. And Obama speaks to that whole demographic, the Latino vote, African Americans, and also people who are upwardly mobile, like entrepreneurs who are out there building businesses from the ground up. And we know how that is in Silicon Valley, happens all the time, and there's a lot of success and failure. So Obama speaks to that audience directly because what he's saying is, look, this is not about having old white incumbent, old guard. This is about new opportunities and new growth. So Obama speaks to that audience directly, and in the face of economic disaster that we're living in today, and the kind of the quasi-recession people argue about, people still voted for Obama because of that alignment with the social liberal policies and this libertarian concept around freedom and economic prosperity. So I think that demographic shift from the old school white controlled right wing government restrictions really helped him win.
What do you think the overall atmosphere was of this election as compared to the last couple elections?
I think, we look at this when we look at SiliconANGLE, it looks at the audience of the internet. I think ultimately what, in my opinion, my angle on this is that we've been observing and reporting via the blog and also the Cube on SiliconANGLE TV, the culture. And I think the tech culture that we're seeing resonating out through the work that Steve Jobs has done with the iPhone going back to 2007 has absolutely shifted the game. So you have a whole nother generation of people coming into the voting electorate who are young, who absolutely have a perspective about what the future should look like. And that future is not about, it's about really, this is not, no cliches aside, it's not about diversity and inclusion. This is about how the world is. So if you look at social media, you look at the internet culture that we're talking about, that mirrors the actual physical culture of the United States electorate. And that is that people are connected, they're diverse, they're sharing, they're more open, they're a little bit more socially liberal around their privacy. So I think this is a cultural issue that is now reflected and amplified through new channels that are uncontrolled by any kind of gatekeeper. So the old media guard, whether it's Republican or Democrat or old school media, there is no more gatekeeper anymore. The freedom and the connectedness of social media and the internet and this culture is amplified, and that really is a major force. And I think when the book is written on this election, it's going to be written as big data, internet culture, mobile phones, not as a way to get people to vote, but actually to share opinion and share commentary around how they really feel. And that absolutely moved the market, in my opinion. That force of internet culture and the connected of the mobile phones wasn't about texting people to vote or raising money. Yes, that's important, but it was about mobilizing opinion, eliminating the middleman and the gatekeepers that controlled opinion, and allowed everyone to have a voice and connect with somebody. So that, to me, will be the magic that will be talked about around this election.
As you mentioned, you had the chance to meet with the chief data scientist for Obama's campaign back in September. What did you two talk about?
He was out here at Stanford actually recruiting, talking about looking for volunteers and people who wanted to take a sabbatical, companies like LinkedIn, Google. At that time, we were just in the middle of our big data project, so I was interested in helping out, but I really couldn't stop what I was doing and volunteer. What he was doing was setting up essentially his big data war room in Chicago. And they were looking for people to take a sabbatical from these companies like LinkedIn and these scientists who really wanted to change the world. So he was there discussing, and I had a conversation with him about what he was doing for data sets. And yeah, they look at Twitter. They're doing a lot of things with Twitter and Facebook. They're actually instrumenting the crowd behavior. So what he was looking to do was establish focus groups around the pulse of the electorate. And again, this is going to be what's written about this election. His focus was not so much to use social media to spam people and say, hey, get out and vote, it's time to vote. He inspired people by using social media for what it really is good for, is establishing what the signals are for the audience and then aligning with those audiences and those consumers to deliver the message that they want to receive, or that's more aligned with what their goals are. So social media was not about selling something, getting them out to vote. It was much more about synthesizing cultural sentiment and then aligning with that sentiment with a solution as a leader. And I think that ultimately is why there was huge lines in support of Obama. That's why the election was tipped over for him. And without the big data, I do not think he would have won the popular vote, and I do not think he would have won the Electoral College. So again, this is something that no one's talking about on the main punditry channels like Fox or CNN. They completely missed the tech angle on this. This is a huge deal, and I think ultimately, as they dig into it, we will find out this was the key to the election.
What do you think the president's focus will be in regards to the technology industry over the next 4 years?
Well, I hope it's not about taxes, and I think tax increases are brutal, and I think that's something that is going to kill businesses. So I think Obama really has to do two things. One is he has to take this supply side kind of approach, not fully go all in on supply side economics, but there are growth issues, there are consolidations. If you look at the big tech players, the consolidation in the M&A market is really, really hot. Yeah, the IPOs market is open, but if you look at what Facebook and others are doing, it's not massively growing. So he's got to establish some credibility in the business side for the large players, because those large players are controlling the market. They have an acquisition strategy. They're also funding a lot of growth. So that's one angle. The other angle is that he has to provide incentives for startups. He has to fix this labor problem. He has to fix the H-1B visa. And I think his immigration angle on this is interesting. And he can, if he does this right, play his cards perfectly, where he can actually create a more educated workforce. And we're passionate about this at SiliconANGLE. We're trying to get the Silicon Academy project off the ground. We're huge fans and proponents of Khan Academy. Education's changing. Our workforce is going to be educated by new channels like Khan Academy, like Silicon Academy, like Code Academy. This is the future. This is not the old way of doing education. So he has an opportunity to bridge that gap around immigration reform, at the same time provide a path of upward mobility through these new technology education channels. So that's something I think he can do. The other thing he's doing is a lot of clean tech investment. So this is a big challenge around the investment community, where in clean tech, the horizon for investment harvesting is way out there. So investors don't want to take that chance. So they need some help. They need some tax credits. They need some incentives, if you will, to take that long view. And this is very similar to some of the things Intel faced back in the early days of the computing industry, where building a fab plant would take, hundreds of millions of dollars and a lot of time. So the investment cycle there is a little bit longer, versus the short cycle you're seeing now with Twitter, Facebook. Someone gets in, gets a couple $1 million and sells it for hundreds of millions of dollars. That's not the model for clean tech. So he's got to step his game up there. But in general, I think Obama is going to be good for the internet. It's going to be good for mobile computing. I think net neutrality, and these are cutting edge issues. I think Obama will weigh in strong on those.
Well, John, thank you so much for joining us today to provide your analysis, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you.
As always, you can follow the news of the day and get the latest breaking analysis here at News Desk on SiliconANGLE TV.